بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. We praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of both worlds, the here and the hereafter, the creator of everything that has been created, and the sender of messengers to guide people to the right path. Blessing and peace be upon the Holy Prophet, our Holy Prophet, the most noble Prophet, and his pure progenies. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الحكيم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم ربنا أنزل علينا مائدة من السماء تكون لنا عيدا لأولنا وآخرنا وآية منك. O Lord, send down to us a repast from heaven, so that it becomes a joyful occasion for us and the future generation, and a sign from you. Well, we have reached the last night of the program. I would like to take the opportunity and offer my congratulations to those who are celebrating tomorrow and those who are celebrating on Monday. Those who are celebrating tomorrow because they follow a particular religious scholar that has declared tomorrow. And there are those who decided that early in the morning, like myself, I have to travel to come back, break my fast, and then come back to be able to lead the prayer. And there are others that would like to do the same. And there are those who are staying till Monday. By the way, at the Islamic Center, we are offering both days, Sunday and Monday, Eid prayers that start the first session at 8 o'clock, then 9 o'clock, then 10 o'clock, and if there were any people around, we will organize the 11 o'clock program as well. Eid al-Fitr, or as we say, the Eid. The verse that I recited, Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 114. The only time in the Holy Quran that we have the phrase Eid being mentioned. No other occasion, the word Eid, you see it in the Holy Quran outside this verse. This verse explains a unique circumstance in which the disciple of Prophet Isa ﷺ asked him for a ma'idah. Ma'idah is among those words in Arabic that there is no equal translation in English. Literally means enough food for a table, not a plate, not specific food, enough food for a table. And when we think about the context that there were a number of disciples asking Prophet Isa ﷺ, then they wanted enough food to cover all the disciples. So they were asking Prophet Isa to call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah to send down enough food for a table for the disciples to enjoy and eat. So it becomes a unique occasion. Remember, food coming down from heaven to a special group of people where Allah takes the initiative. Before this incident, even in the Holy Quran, we have it. The story of Maryam, alayha salam, that when Prophet Zakaria goes to see her in the temple, she finds food with her. And then she asks her, where did she get these food? And she said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent. So before Prophet Isa, the notion of food being sent by Allah for a special group of people existed. And after Prophet Isa, we have it in our literature as well regarding Ahlul Bayt. But for a group of disciples to ask specifically the Prophet that we would like you to do something unique and special. Nothing has happened before, and I don't think anything similar to this is going to happen after. Ask Allah to send us down enough food for a table to enjoy it, and it becomes a unique day for us. That's why the Quran uses the phrase Eid as a unique occasion. Now, if we look at our own literature, we see the usage varies. Sometimes in the religious context, as Muslims, we use the phrase Eid to refer to a special occasion where all Muslims accept. Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. This is a unique occasion, in the sense that both of them they come at the end of a period in which we go through discipline, prepare ourselves spiritually, mentally, and physically for this unique day. Some people, Arafah, even connect the incident or the month of Ramadan to Eid al-Adha, in which you prepare, and finally at the Wadi Arafah, in the plain of Arafah, you stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you say, here I am, Lord, I have literally stripped everything that belongs to the world and I stand before you alone. Month of Ramadan is supposed to be part of that mental preparation. So Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, we use it to refer to a special occasion. We also have the word of Eid being used for what we call theological schools. Not all Muslims agree to it. We have Eid al-Ghadir and Eid Nisf Sha'ban, in which we celebrate the birth of the Imam, the living Imam. Not all Muslims agree to it, but it's unique for the Shia school of theology. And only Shia 12ers, but others, the 6s and so on, may not agree with the context. Also, the phrase of Eid being used to define some kind of unique circumstance that refers to a country. For either Iraq, Lebanon, or any other, Eid al-Istiqlal, for example. The Eid of the day in which you become independent, the Independence Day. That's again the phrase we use it in that context. We also have Eid on a seasonal basis. The Iranians would use Eid al-Nowruz to refer to unique Eid and celebration for the beginning of the year or beginning of spring. These are all the usage of the word refers to a unique day or unique season. But Eid al-Fitr, from an Islamic point of view, because it happens to be after a month of serious discipline, is critical. Some people think Eid al-Fitr is a celebration of the end of month of Ramadan. Far from it. Eid al-Fitr is not to celebrate that the month of Ramadan is over. During yesterday khutbah that I delivered here, I made it clear. If you look at our own literature, we see our imams used to lament and be sorry for the departure of the month of Ramadan, because it was a unique occasion in which the doors to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was opened, and invitation from Allah was extended to everyone to repent. No other occasion comes to it until next year. And nobody knows whether that privilege will be extended to us when next Ramadan comes. This is why we had to make the best of this month. And in a day like tomorrow, or for those who celebrate Monday, we stand as we offer prayer to declare 4 things. Number 1, to give thanks. It's a thanksgiving for being privileged to be able to fast during the month of Ramadan. Not everybody had that privilege. And we thank Allah for that privilege, for giving us the gift of Ramadan to be able to go through it. Some people might have misunderstood the concept, and they thought month of Ramadan is purely a month for fasting, refraining from food and drink, neglecting the spiritual dimension of the month of Ramadan. They will have to suffer the consequences. But if we look at the literature, month of Ramadan is unique because of the opportunities that it creates for us to reflect, soul-searching, reflection, purification, etc., finding direction in our life, orientation, and at the end of the month, surrender to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be a true abd. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Ya'budun does not worship, means to act like a servant, to submit and surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the goal. And occasionally there are dates, and occasion when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitates this more than usual. Month of Ramadan was that. So we first, as a thanksgiving, tomorrow morning, if you look at all the a'mals that are recommended for the day of Eid, the gist of it, number 1, is to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessing. Number 2, since every action, every deed, every responsibility within Islam has the discussion that we had on sins a few nights ago, I made this clear, that sins is deeds that happen within the context, and those contexts could be either personal or social. Eid is another deed that we have a social dimension to it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted us wealth, granted us health, granted us the opportunity to fast. The least we can do is to share some of that blessing with those who are less fortunate than we are. This is why we celebrate before you come out to offer your Eid prayer by separating your fitrah, zakat al-fitrah, to be given to the poor. This year, it has been decided as $10 for each individual. The household, the head of the household, whether it's the father or the mother, whoever is the breadwinner, that takes responsibility of the upkeep of the family, before he or she comes out, must separate $10, which is the amount, the figure they quote this year, for each member of the family, whether they are young or they old. Even for the guests that they come to your house during the iftar before the day of Eid. The scholars have disagreed as to what constitutes that, but for the time being, broadly speaking. So, sharing our blessing with the poor and the needy is number 2. Your fasting will not be accepted if zakat al-fitrah is not given, or at least allocated and separated that you can give it later. The third is a reflection on where we stand vis-a-vis the norms and values that became clear to us during the month of Ramadan. Month of Ramadan, during the process, it was made clear to us that there are certain negative traits that we have to throw away and gain few positive attributes. Then we stand during this day honestly in judging ourselves. How close are we to those values? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that for you to gain taqwa and become God-centric, where Allah becomes the center of everything, number one priority, how close are we to that reality? Do we give Allah the priority that Allah deserves or not? And finally, there is a hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salam alayh that says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of Eid, the malaika, the angels will descend and inform all those who fasted that Allah has forgiven your shortcomings and your sin. But then he ends, but be watchful of what you're going to do next from now until next opportunity. Month of Ramadan, with all the unique occasion, all the unique environment, all the advantages, all the gifts that Allah gave to us have come to an end. We stand tomorrow to judge ourselves, stock taking of our negative and positive values in our life. But at the same time, it does not mean that once the month of Ramadan ends and you celebrate iftar, we can become as crooked as we were before the month of Ramadan, as if nothing has happened. During tomorrow is a solemn occasion. It's like the new year. You make some promises to yourself, a resolution, that I'm going to lose few pounds here, organize few works there, pay attention to few exercises here, go and visit my family. This is the new resolution of the new year. This is the new resolution of tomorrow, that I intend to follow the directive, the moral obligation that I went through it during the month until next year. It's strange that when we keep an eye on people that come to the mosque during month of Ramadan and when they go to Hajj, how quickly after the month or after the Hajj, they are back to square one, as if nothing has happened in between. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the last night. I would like to thank everyone that attended these meetings, whether the early part or the latter part, and ask Allah to forgive our shortcomings, to also grant us the privilege. We ask humbly to grant us the privilege for another gifted occasion that if we didn't do well during this month of Ramadan, we ask Allah to extend our lives so that the next occasion we are privileged to do better. And if this is another obligation that brothers and sisters have towards each other, when you see a brother or a sister beginning to move away from the commitment of the month of Ramadan, Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar obligates all of us to remind them that look, it's only 2 days after Ramadan, 3 days after Ramadan. We should be watchful of what we say, what we hear. Backbiting, slander, all these negative traits must be thrown out and positive attributes to be gained. Inshallah, we ask Allah for all of this, and please join me in reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Today in the afternoon we had 2 asbu'as for people who did not, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give them the long life to stay for next Ramadan. But at least we remember them with our Fatiha, recite Fatiha for them, and keep in mind as you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, the soul of the founder of this Islamic Center, Marhum Allama Sheikh Muhammad Jawad Shirri, that the community owes so much to him. He sacrificed, and the team that worked with him. We are fortunate to have few of them still living within our own community. But he in particular sacrificed so much. What you have today is from the hard work of himself and the team that worked with him from humble beginning. And everybody else worked and participated until we have, alhamdulillah, this magnificent center. Let's work together to keep it and improve it, inshallah, further. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.